What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and this is Does It Suck? The show where we take a deep dive look at a new game and see what's good or bad about it. Today we're going to be talking about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodhunt. This is a brand new, completely free game that was launched on the PlayStation 5 and Steam, and to be quite frank, I've been playing it all morning, and it's one of those games that feels surprisingly high budget for how tiny the studio is that made it. It's balanced, it's wacky, but there are certain aspects of this game that are very, very broken and do kind of blow. Let's begin by talking about what Bloodhunt is. This is a vampire battle royale. Now that's not typically two terms I think I'd ever put together, but it sort of feels like Reese's peanut butter cups. They've managed to merge chocolate with peanut butter. This is a very strange concept that works strangely well. Every single match is a struggle to be the last vampire standing, to be the person who manages to kill everybody else. But that is much easier said than done. You see, the way this works more than anything else is that the map is always the same. This takes place in a tiny little village in Prague. It has some different cool locations like shopping malls and nightclubs and cryptic graveyards, and as you can see, a lot of very gorgeous rooftops. But while the buildings stay the same, the different loot is always a bit different. It's always randomized, so when you're trying to explore this town, you find different high-level sniper rifles or really weak shotguns, and everything has the typical tier system where purple guns are incredibly strong, green stuff kind of sucks, blue stuff is kind of in the middle. But while you're exploring, you're also going to notice the extra randomized aspect of it, which is the people we can drink. We are, after all, vampires. Now, drinking people's blood does two separate things. It completely refills your health instantly when you choose to drink somebody, but it can also give you random benefits. Drinking somebody's blood may make it where your melee strength increases, so every single physical blow you deal does a lot more damage. It can do stuff to make it where it makes it so your special skills, which we're going to talk about in a second, recharge faster, or it can give you an extra life. One of the things about this I like the most is that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodhunt feels a lot more forgiving than a lot of other battle royales. Because this is just 41 people and not like 100 or 200 people on a map, it feels like you get more of a chance to actually figure things out, find your good loot, experiment, and test out your abilities. It doesn't feel too savage, because even if you do die, on a single map, you get 2 lives. If you die, you do come back to life about 10 seconds later. So it's nice that you do have that chance to sort of figure things out, even if the enemy players are incredibly skilled. But speaking of blood, this does bring me to the item system, where when you're playing this game, there's a lot of times where you're just going to pick up random stuff off the ground that is a usable item. Stuff like extra armor packs, so you can get more bulletproof vests, or things like blood packs, which consider them obviously to be like health potions that you can drink on the go. That's great, but there is certainly something about this that feels like very, very limited at times. One of my biggest pet peeves is that while you're trying to kill people, while you're taking out enemy players and stuff, there's a lot of loot just being strewn across the ground. If you blow up a player, especially if they've been exploring the map a lot, they detonate like a piñata and just shoot bullets and ammo and stuff all over the ground. But it only appears when you're very, very close. There's this very strange pop-in that exists in this game where if you're trying to see somebody off in the distance, you can see characters, so sniping is very good, but a lot of times you can't see the items they drop. So a lot of times you can't really get an idea of where stuff's at until you're directly on top of it. And part of the reason this does suck is because whenever you click the right stick, it does this scan thing. You've probably seen a bunch of it in this gameplay. I scan all the time. And whenever you see this soft blue glow, that's telling you where items are at. It sucks when you are choosing to stay on rooftops to be better spectated and watch out for other enemies and stuff. It sucks to sometimes be scanning to know an item is right beneath you, but you can't see what it even is. You don't know if it's worth your time to jump off of a building. Now, we are vampires, so scaling right back up a building isn't particularly arduous, but it still kind of blows when you end up going into a bad spot to pick up a bad item. But let's talk about the special abilities of these different vampire classes. The biggest difference that makes this feel like it is going to stand out and hopefully age well as a free-to-play battle royale is this whole idea of the different species of vampire. Anybody who's ever played Vampire the Masquerade, the old like tabletop RPG, which I've played, there are these different sects. Almost think of them as like different evolutionary trees of the vampire species. Well, in this game, you get a different style of gameplay. You can choose them before you drop onto the map. You pick whether you want to be somebody who can be sneaky. The sneakers are able to just teleport around. They can make themselves invisible for a short time. There's things like the bashers who can do a super jump or straight up charge into people. Stunners are these people that basically have siren screams. They can do a thing where they have like basically an organic flashbang where they shoot a bunch of light out of their eyes and it screws over anybody nearby. It completely blacks out your screen. So if you're like a melee build, if you're trying to bash people with a baseball bat or a katana, being a stunner is incredibly fun. Or the most interesting class to me is the Enforcer. The Enforcer kind of portrays himself as the tank class. You can literally turn your skin to marble. That is his super ability. Now, everybody has two super abilities, but I consider one to be offensive and one to be defensive. Like some people will have a self-heal, some people will have the ability to lay down traps, but it feels like there's this nice yin and yang for the most part. My biggest issue with this, though, is just still the fact that the Enforcer feels dramatically stronger than everybody else. I've tested out a lot of these classes, and since there is an incredibly quick time to kill, usually whoever gets the first shot wins a lot of the time. The one difference, though, is that because Enforcers can make their skin into marble and absorb that extra damage, it feels like they have this extra ability to resist an ambush that the other classes don't have. Now, this is obviously just me talking off the cuff after playing it a couple hours. Maybe if you get more experienced and tinker with the different classes, you'll get better at using a particular one. Also, of course, there is just the skill benefit. If you're particularly good with like a Tommy gun or a shotgun, you're probably going to win the fight, even if the other player has a better set of powers. But this does bring me to one of the weirdest aspects. So most of this game, you're seeing me show you the gameplay from the solo mode. There is a trios mode. You can only play by yourself or in a team. Now, in trios, you cannot self-revive. When you're playing in trios, it ironically feels a lot more lonely because if you screw up and die, then you're stuck dead until one of your teammates chooses to revive you. And additionally, this is bizarre, but the revive points are just random spots on the map. It's not like you get to go to some sort of cool blood clinic or some magic coffin and pull your friends back to the land of the living. You sort of just sit there and wait for them to press the revive button. Like, trios just feels like a much worse idea, especially because the other parts of this feel more balanced. It feels like the game was built to be solo, especially because there is only 41 players, and then they added in trios as like some sort of way to try and entice streamers. I don't know, it just feels really, really unfinished. My last real problem with this game just comes down to the fact that I don't understand the setting of it. Why call this Vampire the Masquerade when you don't really do anything with the lore itself? Like, Vampire the Masquerade is a big, delicious universe with all sorts of lore and rival factions and secret wars about all these different people. But when you're playing the game itself, it just feels like different heroes. It doesn't have anything to do with it. Like, one of my favorite factions in the Vampire the Masquerade tabletop game is the Bruja. They're like biker gangs that kidnap soccer dads and stuff and turn them into vampires as a practical joke on the world. But here, they're just random dudes in leather jackets who sometimes super punch the ground. It just feels like they should have called it Bloodhunt. I think the game is good, but trying to brand it in this specific way feels rather pointless. I just wish that there was something more to this. As the game currently stands, it's fun, it's balanced, it feels very, very good, but the biggest thing is the fact that it's still incredibly free. As it currently stands, there isn't even a battle pass. The store is pretty much empty. It just feels like right now, if you want to try the game out, it is a good time. I'm not sure how they managed to polish this so much with such a tiny budget, but right now, this is one of those games where if you have a PlayStation 5, 100% you need to install this. Give it a shot. Even if you just play it for like 4 hours, it's going to be a good time. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts about Bloodhunt. Have you tried it for yourself? Please tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And please, if you could, give this video a like, share it with your friends, and please keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.